I wanted to introduce my colleague, Dr. Han, who's a multi-exited serial entrepreneur, a true scientist and doctor in the space, and now on his fourth life sciences tool company, iRepertoire.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Oppo. Try to speak louder. My previous company actually exited with the infectious disease multiplex PCR diagnosis. We were the first one during the SARS outbreak, developed a 10 pathogen assay, including SARS. And then the second company, that was acquired by QIAGEN in 2006. And then I joined Hassan-Arfa Institute, which is a nonprofit. And we developed a next generation of multiplex PCR technology and started a company called Diatherix, was acquired by Eurofins, and that's providing service. iRepertoire, by the way, I promised my wife no more. This is the fourth company. And we start something new. Everybody was doing genome sequencing. And I was trained as medical geneticist, board certified clinical molecular geneticist. But I go after something different because currently, United States, 30% of the budget, healthcare budget, spent on the last year of the patients. The reason is we couldn't, it's really sick care, not health care. And the reason that is we couldn't define health well. Our definition of health is you are not sick, which means we're using disease as a reference to define health. How can we define health better without referring to disease? And that is our mission, is to maintain health, prolong life in the middle, not from the end when you are in the sick bed. Genome, as I mentioned, is fate. It's something you have and you cannot change much. Immune repertoire, immune system, on the other hand, diagnose all the disease, treating all the disease with these T-cell, B-cell receptors that recognize and solving the disease problems with a great specificity and sensitivity, and they're in our peripheral blood. So that is the best place to looking for disease signal and health signal. And knowing that, for example, Google already started a 10,000 sample initiative, and there recently another nonprofit organization started a big project. Microsoft teamed up with Adaptive in a big project. Chinese government launched a big project called digital encoding or decoding of immunity. It's a human genome-like project that want to do large populations. Because like I said, if genome did the job, genome project did the job, we don't have to looking for other disease signals. Genome is fate. Immune repertoire is fortune because it changes with time and space. Human genome, again, took 13 years, thousands of scientists from 6 countries, $28 billion, sequencing 2 individuals' genome. But genome, that allows us to diagnose all the diseases because we sequence our genome from beginning to the end. But immune repertoire, 2 unrelated individuals share only 3%. At genome level, we share 99.99%. Therefore, consensus is very easy to build for genome in order to detect mutation. Immune repertoire is vast. We have human beings that are capable to make 10 to the 25th that many different T-cell, B-cell receptors by reshuffling our genetic sequences. And that is where the information is. And that is very difficult to study and therefore require AI. And we've been at this in the past 18 years, actually, not 15. We started doing these 2007. We were the first one to file patent, first one to commercialize it. We're first one to publish. And so far we have sequenced more than 300,000 libraries, 18,000 samples all these years. And we also developed AIDEN. AIDEN stands for Adaptive Immune Defensive Network. We believe our immune system functions at a network level, not at a single cell level. It doesn't play man-to-man, but play zone defense. Each one of our immune cells play a position. This is different from textbook. We actually find something, the textbook, the clonal selection theory, told us each one of our T cells recognize self, therefore they can recognize the enemy. But in fact, they don't. Our T cells don't recognize self that clearly, at least, and therefore they play zone defense. And that is similar to AI. AI basically need computing power, data, and algorithms. And our computing power is our multiplex PCR chemistry that generate the data, and we've been doing this for the past 15 years, done so much of work, and we are sitting on 10 to the 16th sequence, unique sequence being identified, and already building the consensus allow us to detect the holes in your immune system. It is the weakness in your immune network causing you to have a certain disease. And we can measure the completeness of your immune system and the holes of your immune system. These actually are data. Each one of the color-coded dot is a unique T cell, B cell receptor. This is a low density one. We have a much bigger density one. But this is an interesting point that we find through large population study. There's a disease. We defined a new disease called a greedy clone disease. That small portion of your immune system is it's taking too much resources. It's inequality in our immune system. And 5% of people in the population 30 years younger have this condition. 10% under 60-year-old without any symptoms have this condition. But 40–50% of patients with cancer and autoimmune disease have this greedy clone disease. Your immune system preoccupied. You have less resources to deal with what you really need to deal. And that is sub-health or pre-disease. It's a gateway to many, many diseases. So the technology have a vast applications. It mainly is a preventive. I like the preventive more. It's allows focusing on maintain health rather than diagnosing disease. Of course, diagnosing disease is also in the book. We already published many papers on diagnosing, for example, rheumatoid arthritis, cancer, and others. Drug development, focusing how to get rid of the inequality, maintain health, strengthen your defense to do this. And immune system, like I said, have all the signals. It doesn't read the human label we put on each one of the disease, but they have their own diagnosis of where the immune systems weaken, have holes, that network have holes, and that holes related to different diseases. And we already help companies, for example, Iovance, get FDA approval for their TIL therapy, identifying tumor-specific responses. So we publish many papers, patents, and we have more than 2,000 academic labs using the technology, biofarmers, clients using it. Our revenue is small because we are developing the technology on the way, solving all kinds of problems and collecting data. Data is the key that make us unique. And we have the methodology and also automated. By the way, that was my third company, iCubate. We developed a plastic cassette. You put a sample in, you put it into the machine and make the library sequencing automatically, so small lab hospitals can do that. And there are more companies already. Most of the major pharmaceutical companies are using the technology for their clinical trials. But my personal favorite is really to do more about health. Thank you very much.
A couple of minutes for questions.
That was absolutely fascinating. We do next-gen sequencing too, botany. I have a question about the actionable report for health, because you're absolutely spot on. We define disease by symptoms. Most chronic diseases are asymptomatic until they are irreversible. A lot of diseases we can change, and I think that is where you're going.
Very good point. We developed a different index. It looks like, it's just like economists describe economy with GDP, unemployment rate. So we come up with a lot of indexes to describe immune repertoire globally and micro and macro. The indexes we developed, for example, network density index is to see your total fighting soldiers. The hub index is network hub index, density index is detecting your reserve. If everybody else has these, how much do you have? And there's a diversity index, it's a ranked repertoire that measures your active duty. So instead of, and we use these three indexes to generate a composite index projected over 100 years old, and which all these are backed with the data, we can show you. And so the hypothesis is that God is fair, give everybody enough immunity to live to 100. But the real question is, how much do you have today? And that is a test we want to run for addressing health. And that can be done with a fingertip blood.
Are these, I think what I'm getting is that you're still detecting the disease that exists at a preclinical stage, right? When you're talking about detecting colon cancer and other things, or in the case of infectious disease, before they have symptoms. So
Not really.
Okay.
I think
What's the sales point to the clinician? No.
the clinician is disease diagnosis definitely. We published a recent paper from rheumatoid arthritis.
Yeah.
We take your blood, sequencing your T cell, B cell receptor, all 7 chains, and using AI actually to identify the signature for rheumatoid arthritis by studying 100 patient controls, 86 patients. Patients also went to treatment for 12 weeks. And the report shows we can diagnose the disease with 95% accuracy, 100% sensitivity. And so disease signature, definitely for sure, we can identify those. But the question is pre-disease, pre-diagnosis, that is actually one of the projects we launched back in 2012 called R10K. And we used my previous exit money to donate to Hasanafa Institute, a nonprofit. So this money I get to spend, and we collaborate with many scientists who have a sample in the freezer, gold standard diagnosis, we just need blood, we sequence them. R10K stands for repertoire 10,000. We want to study 10,000 patients, study 100 disease, 100 patients per disease. And indeed, we study 30-some disease, we all can find a disease signal. But we find something also wrong, is we've been after disease-specific gain of a signal. We believe when you have the hypothesis in the textbook is when you have this disease, you have this group of specific antigen exposed, you have these T cell receptors address this antigen. Therefore, if you see this receptor, you know you have this antigen, you can diagnose the disease. But that logic chain doesn't exist. And so we now use AI to figure out where the signal is. It's turned out it's a disease-specific loss of signal. It's when you have this disease, it's because you have a hole in your defensive network. So you need to identify the holes. But having the hole, not necessarily you have the disease. Disease is opportunist. We die from certain disease, it's because that is the last battle your immune system fought and lost. But before that, you're already fighting so many wars.
Yeah. Question, did you mention what size raise you're engaged in at present?
Yeah, we are raising 20 million.
20 million.
We had a previous round of 10 million.